I'm just gonna touch on this section. I won't read hugely from it because it's kind of heavy for this time of night, I think. I have a series of poems called Care Package for a Combat Engineer, and very quick background. Rob, you arse. So I somehow accidentally wound up married to a guy who was a military, a combat engineer in the Canadian military, and he's not anymore. He quit, but he was, and he did go to Afghanistan, which is a very strange thing to have, not having grown up with military connection or in a time when we were involved in any serious war until Afghanistan. It was strange, enlightening, all of those things kind of experience, and it remains so. But in a very kind of small, practical way, when he left for his tour, I was trying to figure out how to send him mail. He was going to be gone for like 8 months. And trolling through the military website to try to find the instructions on how to send a package to a soldier is complicated. And everything with the military is complicated and bureaucratic and blah, 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 blah. But you know there are rules, so you have to find them. And while I was trying to find this page that I knew was there, but I couldn't find it in the website, I went and Googled a phrase like, soldier care package or something. And what came up instead of what I was looking for was a blog written by a woman who called herself Military Mom at Home, which had her own very detailed instructions on the kind of care package to send, which was extremely intense, specific, kind of like the Martha Stewart version of how to send your soldier like the right kind of toothpaste and all of this, and it just drove me crazy. So, partly because it sort of suggested every single person involved in this situation is exactly the same and would have the same interests and need the same kind of foot powder, for God's sake. So I wound up, figuring out how to send mail, but also writing a series of poems about things I would send. It was kind of like me talking back to this woman and doing a lot of other things. So a lot of the things that I would send in these poems actually turned out to be from the Red Path Museum in Montreal, which I won't explain. One of those things were some carrier shells, which when I was living in Montreal, became fascinated with. There's a little display of them in the Red Path Museum. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen, I'd never heard of them before, but there's little like mollusks that sit in the bottom of the sea, and and they gather things and stick them to themselves. So it's a shell with all kinds of pebbles and other little shells and other things literally glued to it. And the scientists, the biologists don't really know why they do this, but they start to look like something out of a Dr. Seuss book, and they're pretty fantastic. So one of the things in my care package is this, carrier shells all in a row. See bearers of foreigners, les xénophobes. This one sprouts a pinafore of oceanic pearls. Its neighbor crouches in a pebbly cloak. Let's look open-mouthed through the glass. Could be these mollusks would sink in soft mud without radical renovations, or crack. Malacologists have no clue. The proboscis stirs the murk till it brushes a sunken temptation. It gives the salt-laden bauble a polish, rotates, screws the jewel on like an eye. There goes an hour and a half. Deploying foot, snout, and tentacles like mechanical arms and wrenches, it glues the thing down. The snail lies motionless, dawn to dusk. It wobbles in its squishy bed, testing the waters. I'll tell you why all this subterfuge. In every cluttered shell, There's a girl shoving a sandbag against a wall. A man ducking his shadow. A baby in a sun hat with a frilly brim, blinking. They're all tucked together inside. I've kept watch. Not officially. No radios, night goggles, nothing like that. Each of your fingers pressed neatly between each of mine, our hands entwined in the glass. I ask again, what do you call the fortified walls snappers notch into place around a base? I'll read one more short poem from this